Today we are going to be breaking down Dennis Schroder of the Los Angeles Lakers. He is a career three-point shooting percentage player, and of course we can always learn from some of the best shooters in basketball. So let's get down and let's break down Dennis Schroder and how he shoots the basketball. What we want to focus on first off is his feet, his base. They are roughly shoulder width apart, which is going to help him stay balanced and in control of his shot. Next, his right foot is slightly ahead of his left, which is going to allow him to have a great base to have nice aim towards the net. Next, after he gets that ball, he has his shoulders over his knees, over his toes. This is going to allow him to have a nice consistent and balanced shot. From there, when he gets that ball, he catches it and has a gather roughly around his midsection. From there, when he brings the ball up, his set point seems to be right above his forehead, right above his head in the middle of his body. And he does bring the ball up the middle of his body as well. From there, what a lot of coaches, trainers, and pretty much everyone will always tell you is you want to have a perfect triangle. What we mean by that is you want to have your shoulder in line with your elbow to the rim. And as we can see, his elbow is slightly out from the rim. You also want to have the ball over top of your elbow so that you can have a perfect straight shot. This would make the perfect triangle and gives a lot more consistency to your shot. Now, considering that Dennis Schroder is a 34% three-point shooter in-game in the NBA, we can take that this form does work well for him. Could he be better? Potentially. But what we really want to focus on too is when he jumps to release, what happens. So, when he releases that ball, we can see that it goes off his middle finger. So, when he jumps, he does have his right shoulder move forward and his left shoulder move back. So he's tilting in the air or turning in the air to take his shot. This allows his right leg to kick slightly out, and because of that, by the time he goes up for his actual shot, it is pretty well having the elbow in line with the shoulder to the rim. However, that ball is not over top of the elbow. It slightly is, but it is not. When he does release the ball, however, the ball is over top of his elbow, and he does release with his middle finger. He does have a nice follow through, and his elbow is above his forehead. He does not shoot with a thumb flick, which is something that actually may possibly help him, considering that the ball is not over his elbow when he does go up for his shot. What this is telling us is by having that ball to the left of his elbow, that's telling us that that ball is going to be shot towards the left side. By having his shoulder not in line with his elbow, it's telling us that the ball is going to go out towards the right. These two things may also equal out against each other for him to have a straight shot. At 34%, he's not going to be one of the premier three-point shooters in the NBA. However, he still has a higher true shooting percentage by shooting threes over driving towards the rim in theory. Because in theory, what true shooting percentage tells us is you actually have a higher rating by shooting threes and making over 32% of your threes than if you were to drive towards the rim and miss a couple of layups here and there. And if you are looking into what true shooting percentage really is, then make sure to check out my video on the topic. Now from this clip, we have him stepping into his shot. We can see that his shoulders are pretty well in line with his knees and his toes, just slightly off, but he is trying to stop his forward momentum and change it into upwards momentum because he is going for his shot. When he does go up for his shot, we can see that his right leg does move forward and the same as his shoulders, as I was mentioning before. We can also see from his set point that he has roughly a 90-degree angle on his elbow. What does this tell us? So by having a 90 degree on his wrist, he's going to have good rotation on that ball. By having a 90 degree on his elbow, that's telling us that he's going to have a faster release, which is making it harder for players like Ingles here to be able to block his shot. By also having a 90 degree angle on his shoulder, again, that's the same thing, where it comes down to speed of shot. Those things come down to speed, that comes down to rotation of the ball when he wants to release. So by going up for his shot, and when he does flick down, he has a curved hand, which is a soft release. So what this is doing for us is, this is telling us that by having his wrist that far back, and then having a soft release, he has found the middle point to him that will allow him to have arc, and a lot of it, plus a lot of backwards rotation on that ball. Why is this important? Because arc is going to allow that rim to look bigger to the ball, and backwards rotation on the ball is going to allow that ball to hit that rim softer, so that if it does hit the front of the rim or the back of the rim, there's a higher probability of it bouncing in. We can also see that he does jump about a foot forward. Now, what does that tell us? Well, it doesn't really tell us a ton, but it does tell us that he does need a lot more leg strength to get into his shot so that he can shoot from NBA range and farther. Now, is this a negative? No, it's not. However, it could turn into a negative if you don't practice your shot enough, because if you're shooting that far, if you're jumping that far ahead on your shot, and you start getting into a cold streak, one of the first things that you're going to change is something that a lot of people will notice of your shot first, and that's usually your jump. So if you usually jump a foot forward, and now on your jump you're still jumping a foot forward, but your shot up here is different and it's changed, maybe you're bending your elbow a bit more or a bit less or whatever it may be, and somebody says, oh, you're just jumping too far forward, you need to go straight up and straight down, which is how a lot of coaches, trainers, and players will say that your shot should be, then now you're going to be jumping not as far forward, and now your shot's going to be short, and now you're going to have to fix two things. You're going to have to fix the straightness of your shot, but also the power of your shot. So this is why I always tell players, if you're going to shoot forward into your shot, what you need to really think of is, can I be consistent jumping that far ahead, for one, and for two, am I able to get enough power by just going straight up and straight down so that this doesn't add on to your cold streak. Now, if you're looking to jump higher for shooting the basketball or just to dunk the ball, make sure to go check out my vertical jump training book down in the description below. I hope that this Dennis Schroder video will help you shoot the basketball better. If it does, hit that like button and subscribe. I know I mentioned earlier that you can use a thumb flick. That is a very hard thing to learn and a very hard thing to teach. So I wouldn't suggest going into using a thumb flick like a Steph Curry or a Kyrie Irving unless you really know what you're doing or unless it's natural to you. I hope that this video has helped you. If it has, hit that like button, subscribe. Thumb flicks are just a negative altogether for most players because it'll take away your arc as well as your rotation in most cases. I'll see you guys again next time.